Professor Cornish, the floor is yours. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that nice welcome. Hopefully you can see my slide and say this is a sort of welcome and it's a sort of introduction to what we're going to see. And basically, for me, urgent materials needs have got something to do with helping humans. So there's a whole list of human problems. I'm not going to go through them one by one. And one of the things with human problems is, where are we going with this? Well, basically, we've got an unsustainable future, and that means your children are going to have a worse life than you. That's basically what it means. So for those of you with children, think about that. And then how can those same problems be helped by materials? So I've put a yes and no if they can be helped by materials. And some of them you might argue with. The lack of clean water is very pertinent in South Africa at the moment, because due to corruption, we've got a lot of deaths happening with cholera, because basically something wasn't done properly, and that could have been done properly. And then materials for solving problems. How do we define more sustainable materials? It sounds very nice. So they can be more efficient, do a better job, do a different job. They can last a long time. They can also degrade. Those of you observant will notice we've got a bit of a dichotomy there. They can be recycled or they can be repurposed. And then down at the bottom, I've got, you can improve established materials, you can develop new materials, or you can have new processes. And that forms its own little ring, which might help what we're trying to do. And then what this does is match those to how can materials help us. And you'll notice that we've got some contradictory things. That's fair enough, because we use different materials. And then beneficiation is really, really important. Notice the lack of units on this graph, but as you move to the right, the value in and do more work, the value increases. And then I sort of put in, bit tongue-in-cheek at the top, branding. Branding is actually really important. Take, for example, the Prime drink, which is now getting a bit more sensible to buy, but it's still a bit over the top. So that's very important, because what that does is it helps give people jobs and it helps create wealth. And then consumerism is a double-edged sword. It's good for jobs, development, wealth creation, but it's also bad because it can be increasing inequality between the haves and the have-nots. And also it actually promotes a throwaway society because you want the latest. But you can have selling on or passing on items, which can lead to empowerment lower down. And it could lead to recycling opportunities, and that could lead to employment and wealth. But the throwaway society can also mean more in dumps in the sea, increased pollution, pressure on environment. Hence, consumerism can be a double-edged sword. And then life cycles. So the old way, you got your ore or your materials, you made the products, and then when you finished with them, you dumped them. Well, that's not so good these days. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to reuse them. And you have had for many years recycling within production. So if there's a problem, you can sometimes, even if you take it far back, and it's recycled. So this is still very simplistically, but what we're doing is we're trying to stop things going to the dump. And then we've got another, getting better with the recycling. We can have new products, reuse, repurposes. And that's really good because it decreases pollution and it makes jobs, both formal, which the government likes because they get tax, or informal, which are still good. And then we have to remember that things change. Politics, a country no longer produces or exports the material or keeps them for themselves. You get improved extractions, for example, titanium processing. You get safety issues as we realize that things are actually dangerous. So you might have to change the materials as you go along anyway. And then New materials changes. Some of these are quite old now, and I'm sure Prof. Knutson is smiling to himself. Nanomaterials, everybody thought they were going to be really great. They are good for certain things, that's great. Icosahedral materials were going to save the planet. They didn't. High entropy alloys didn't save the planet, and they got renamed as complex concentrated alloys. And this thing I love, okay, it's 4 years ago, but it's saying that yes, we've been working on for a while, but they don't have all the properties that we're looking for. So I think they are the big hype, but people are still trying to get money to work on them. And then we have new processing. Additive manufacturing is good. It still involves melting of the powders, even if for a short time. And then there's a whole thing of that you need good powders. Spark plasma sintering is not new, but it can retain fine structures, which will give you the good properties. Coating techniques, they're being used more and more. They must be high quality and reproducible. And then surface modification, we do quite a lot of work on laser shock peening. So all of these are making our materials better. And I just stuck this in for another process to get titanium. And then looking at target materials. So this is like my introduction to what we're going to see. Some typical target materials are high temperature materials for more effective turbines. Biomaterials, we've got two talks on that today. Magnetic materials, nobody came there, but still good to think about, replacing rare earths because they're expensive and difficult to get, using more in the green energy for wind turbines. And I was trying to persuade people to come for building materials. So safer building materials, stronger, lasting longer, and also things like self-healing cement. Smart building materials for shading and cleaning. They are around, but we should be using them more. Recyclable building materials. And I don't mean that they just get stolen. And then materials for energy, production and storage. There's going to be a lot of that coming later on today. So I just want to talk about transport and materials. And basically you want lighter and smaller material vehicles to save costs, cleaner energy, cleaner engines, increased efficiency in autocatalysts. Already mentioned high temperatures for increased efficiency. We talk about electric vehicles. How do we charge them, especially in South Africa? Railway for bulk, we've fallen off that. And then society-wise, bicycles and public transport and shared transport, all things to think about. So basically, here's an old plane. I just really like the picture. Basically, we want to be hotter, faster, and greener. And this also goes for land-based turbines. I know this is an old picture, but I love it. And I haven't found one to replace it yet that does it as well. And this just shows, as you go through the years and the planes that were being used, at the carbon emissions. And look how it's going down and down, which is really good. And then coatings. I also stole this. It's over 20 years ago, but it shows how coatings can insulate the alloy underneath. So guess what? You can push it up to higher temperatures, more turbine efficiency, and also the design of your turbine blade. You can also build cooling into that. And this is just, yes, I know it's very old, but it just shows how processing and then thermal barrier coatings can actually push up that limit. But you're now sort of stuck on nickel-based superalloys. We were trying to develop something better. And sorry, it did have better properties, but it was too heavy and too expensive, even for land-based, which is really where we were aiming at. But this just shows that it's worthwhile to keep pushing things and why we keep working on this. And then I've rushed through because I was worried about time. I want to talk a little bit about ARUA, which is the African Research Universities Alliance. We've got a Center of Excellence in Materials, Energy, and Nanotechnology. And our mission is to use research to develop human capacity in Africa to help solve African problems and hopefully one day to help make Africa globally competitive. It's a big ask, I know, what we want to do is to develop materials, some for energy things and some using nanotechnology for Africa. And we want solutions for Africa. If they also help the rest of the world, that's great. We want to develop people, especially young career researchers, and we want to do our best to try and keep them in the environment that they're working in. I've had quite a lot of students who've gone and worked in banks. You could argue that that's good because you might find it easier to get loans, but yeah, well, I'd like to keep them more in where they've got expertise. And then meaningful networking and collaborations. I've got a bit of a sore point about that, because meaningful should be ones that you know you can work with these people rather than you get told to work with these people. And then we want to grow by leveraging funds. Well, we're not very good at that yet. We have had one grant from the UKRI, but it's been very difficult to use it as they would let us use it. And COVID certainly didn't help. So what we've done under our first UKRI, and it's all about building up your, it's all about capacity development. What we've done is we've got these themes, and we were overambitious with the themes. And you'll notice that you've got 5 themes around the outside, the circles, and then you've got the green theme in the middle, improving the effectiveness and efficiency of materials. And that really overlaps all of the 5 themes outside. And all of those themes so far can all be to do with increasing sustainability. And then there's also, and I find this a bit tricky to deal with, but we've got other people helping us, how society is affected by materials. And it also means how materials are affected by society. So that's what we've been trying to do. It's been very difficult. COVID really messed us up. There were a few other things which messed us up, but this is, and we've got some more smaller amounts of funding, but it's more focused. So we on and do this better. We have got teams lined up. We're happy to take other people on board. We're trying to do. So thank you very much. I've just had a message to say my internet is unstable. So there's my Land Rover at the end of the. I don't have that Land Rover anymore, and everybody can probably guess why. So thank you very much. I hope we're going to have a conference, and thank you very much. And thank you to everyone else.